Good morning, I'm Maddie Jansen, and this is the podcast of 17 News at Sunrise. It's everything you need to know to start your day in about 15 minutes.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning. Police are searching for clues today after a shooting in southwest Bakersfield leaves a man dead. What we know so far.
Volunteers at the mission are gearing up to serve hundreds of underprivileged people in our community. How you can help make this Good Friday extra special for those in need.
And it was an emotional homecoming for a group of veterans who got a warm welcome home after a whirlwind tour of memorials built in their honor. We'll show you the touching moments.
Good morning, and it's 5 a.m. on this finally Friday. It is Good Friday, and of course, we're getting ready for Easter, and I just realized we're all kind of wearing pastel colors.
Yeah, we are.
I didn't even think about it, actually, but yeah.
Very beautiful, bright colors for this Easter holiday.
Yours is definitely more Easter-like. It's got the pinks, the blues.
I did pick this
I'm
out.
the most Easter-like.
She has a very vibrant
got the yellow. Yeah.
Yellow.
We're all set and ready to go. Good Friday.
And it's going to be a
Easter
great
weekend.
forecast, too. We just got to kind of get through one more
hot day out there. Yesterday wasn't bad because we had a few high clouds that kind of helped us. Today we are expecting the 90s again before we see a cool down for the weekend and on your Easter. We're at 65 degrees right now. No winds to talk about in Bakersfield. And we take a look at the temperatures. And yes, we are going to climb into the lower 90s this afternoon. I think we'll top out right at 92. 45 degrees in the mountains right now for Tehachapi. You have a light wind out of the southeast at 3. Your temperatures today are going to warm up into the 70s. So a warm day for you as well. And for all you golf enthusiasts, if you're going to be heading the course today, 8 a.m., 67, 82 at 11, and by 2 o'clock, we'll be in the lower 90s. We'll talk much more about our weekend weather. That's coming up in just a little bit.
We begin this morning with breaking news out of southwest Bakersfield, where an overnight shooting left one man dead. It happened just before 2 o'clock this morning on Parker Avenue, just a few blocks off of Stein Road. BPD says when officers arrived, they found a man suffering from a gunshot wound. Officers are expected to be at the scene for several more hours. According to our KGET Homicide Tracker, this is the 22nd confirmed homicide of 2019. We have a photographer at the scene waiting to speak with police. We'll continue to track this story for you and bring you new information on air and on our digital platforms.
The search is on for the driver involved in a hit-and-run crash in Oildale. The CHP says it happened around 10 o'clock last night at the intersection of Roberts Lane and Plymouth Avenue. An elderly man was walking northbound on Roberts Lane when a man driving a green sedan hit him, then sped off. He's described as a Hispanic male in his 40s. The CHP does believe alcohol was a factor in the crash, but not with the driver.
A pedestrian was transported to Kern Medical with moderate injuries, and alcohol does appear to be a factor in the pedestrian.
The CHP says the man suffered moderate injuries. No word on how he's doing this morning.
Well, several high-profile cases will be back in the spotlight today. The couple charged in the so-called House of Horrors case are set to be sentenced. Riverside couple David and Louise Turpin are charged with torturing and starving 12 of their 13 kids. Back in February, the couple pleaded guilty to 14 charges. Prosecutors say the kids were abused, malnourished, and rarely allowed to leave the house. The youngest, who was 2 years old when the kids were rescued in January 2018, was the only one who did not appear to be abused. Meanwhile, the Ohio man accused of pretending to be a missing Kentucky boy will also appear in court. 23-year-old Michael Riney is charged with 2 counts of making false statements and 1 count of aggravated identity theft. Police say Riney told investigators he was Timothy Pitson, a boy who went missing in 2011. DNA tests later confirmed Riney was not Pitson. Investigators say Riney came up with the ruse after watching a news story about the boy.
The mission at Kern County is honoring the life and resurrection of Jesus this Good Friday by serving a special meal. Now, you're taking a look at video of the mission's Good Friday meal several years ago. From 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. today, volunteers will serve up more than 300 meals to people living on Kern County streets. The mission is still looking for volunteers to help today. If you're interested, just show up at the mission on East 21st Street by 10:30 this morning.
Well, it was a trip filled with emotions for our local veterans traveling with Honor Flight Kern County. They're back in Bakersfield now, having touched down at Meadowfields Airport last night, and community members were there to greet them with a hero's welcome. 17's Karen Waugh joins us with the touching story.
There was barely a dry eye last night as the community welcomed home our local heroes.
Lots of hope and lots of thanks.
In short, that encapsulates the whirlwind week these veterans spent in our nation's capital. These men, who served in World War II and the Korean War, returned home from their trip with Honor Flight Kern County, and the community came out en masse.
And this part is really amazing, and the tears start to flow, and the veterans really get emotional.
I'm saying thank you to him for serving this country in Vietnam.
In Washington, D.C., not only did these veterans tour the Lincoln and FDR monuments, they visited the memorials for the very wars they fought in.
Having the people all along the parade routes stand up and clap for us and stuff, it was very touching.
Many shed tears of somber remembrance, but also of pride and joy.
I cried, to be honest.
And our own Tabitha Mills traveled alongside the veterans all week. She was with them yesterday as they wrapped up the trip at several monuments dedicated to the Korean and Vietnam Wars, as well as the Iwo Jima Memorial. The day was filled with powerful moments as our veterans remembered those they served alongside. The statues at the Korean War Memorial brought veterans of that war to tears.
Yeah, I see these guys, what they went through. They reminds me of those poor guys. Yeah.
Those same feelings carried over to the Vietnam Memorial as veterans found the names of those they served alongside.
It's very touching. Well, the city of Bakersfield will honor its active duty military with hometown hero banners. This is a sample of what the banners will look like. They'll be in downtown Bakersfield for 1 year. The Hometown Heroes Banners program is a way to recognize men and women who are active duty military personnel who live in Bakersfield. The deadline to apply for a banner is May 3rd, and space is limited for these banners. We've posted details on how to apply. Those details can be found on our website, kget.com.
And on Capitol Hill this morning, lawmakers continue to pour through more than 400 pages of what some consider riveting reading. You saw it right here on KGET. Yesterday, the Department of Justice released a redacted version of the much-anticipated Mueller Report.
The conclusions we already know have not changed, but there's plenty of detail feeding the Democrats' desire to pick up where the special counsel left off. Tracy Potts is in Washington this morning to explain where we go from here. Good morning, Tracy.
Alex, Olivia, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Democrats say they're picking up where the special counsel left off, starting with trying to bring him in to testify.
Hey, thank you, everybody. Game over, folks.
President Trump takes a second victory lap.
It was called no collusion, no obstruction.
But for Democrats, the Mueller report raises more questions than answers.
It's certainly not game over.
The report outlines 10 areas of possible obstruction, including multiple attempts to fire special counsel Robert Mueller. Mueller says he could not determine the president's intent.
Those acts of obstruction of justice, whether they are criminal or not, are deeply alarming.
Mueller left it to Congress to follow up.
And the responsibility now falls to Congress to hold the president accountable for his actions.
They not only want the full report.
No one outside the department has seen the unredacted report.
They want Mueller to testify.
I want to be able to ask Mr. Mueller, who is a former Republican-appointed FBI director, about what happened with this investigation.
Republicans deny Attorney General William Barr.
No collusion.
Gave the report a positive spin for President Trump.
I think it's rather laughable to see them turn their guns on him.
The report revealed President Trump was terrified when Mueller was appointed, telling aides, "This is the end of my presidency." The president's legal team had their own counter report ready to go, but now the president's attorney says they probably won't release it. In Washington, Tracy Potts, 17 News.
Local representatives are reacting to the release of the report. Bakersfield Congressman Kevin McCarthy put out a lengthy statement saying nothing that came out changes the fact that the probe did not find evidence of collusion. He says in part, quote, "It is time to move on. Americans deserve better than this partisan quest to vilify a political opponent, and I urge our Democratic colleagues in the House to put their emotions and opinions aside and instead use that passion to come to the table and work on real solutions for all Americans."
And Representative T.J. Cox also released a statement saying in part, quote, "We have been clear since day one that we believe the American public deserves full transparency in this report that they paid for. But right now, we are focused on supporting our farmers and ranchers, fighting for our valley's water, and providing affordable quality health care for every Valley family." And if you live in Wasco, you've got a chance to meet with some of your local law enforcement this weekend. The Kern Sheriff's Office is holding Coffee with the Cop. It's happening tomorrow morning at the Veterans of Foreign Wars building on E Street. You can stop by between 8 to 10 for a free cup of joe and a chance to ask deputies questions. The Veterans of Foreign Wars will also put on a car exhibit at that event. And heads up for drivers headed over the Grapevine this holiday weekend. Tomorrow, CHP will be on the lookout for speeders. Officers are conducting saturation patrols along sections of Highway 99 and I-5. CHP says speeding is a leading cause of crashes on the Grapevine.
Well, the Condors are in Colorado getting ready to hit the ice tonight for the first game of the playoffs. The opening round for the AHL playoffs starts today. Bakersfield is taking on Colorado tonight at 6:05. Game 2 is tomorrow night, also at 6:05. And the Condors will be back in town playing at Rabobank Arena Tuesday night. The puck drops at 7. The series is best of 5, so if the Condors take the first 3 games, they'll move straight on to the next round.
You know, it's really exciting because they have just been on fire this year, so it's really exciting to see them at this spot, and we wish them the best.
We really do. There's a lot of risk in life, but there's also a lot of ways to protect yourself. Whether it's car insurance or protection plans for electronics, people spend a lot on making sure they're insured. But is it all worth it? Money expert Stacey Johnson explains why it isn't.
Life is full of risk. Risk to your home, your savings, and your body. That's why protection is important. And Americans spend billions of dollars protecting themselves every year with things like insurance and extended warranties. Now, sometimes the cost is worth it. Other times, though, not so much. Here's some examples of protection not worth paying for. Example, identity theft insurance. Sure, there's definitely a risk. And if it happens, it's a mess. But there are cheap ways you can protect yourself, like having a fraud alert or credit freeze put on your account. Then there's extended warranties, pushed by salespeople whenever you buy anything that plugs in. Nice to have? Sure. But worth the high price? In most cases, no. Ditto for home warranties. They're expensive and they're riddled with exclusions. Example, I once had a refrigerator covered by a home warranty. When it broke, I had to pay $50 for the repairman to come out. Then he said it was excluded because the condenser coils were dusty. Some people swear by pet insurance. Others say the price is high, the exclusions many, and the protection, especially for older pets, limited. And finally, we have cell phone insurance. If your phone is super expensive and you're super likely to lose it, it could be worth it. But if the cost and deductible is high, maybe not. Bottom line, fear is an effective sales tool. But if you insure yourself so you'll never lose a penny, you may never have a penny to lose. So think it through. Always read the fine print. And if you want to see a longer list of protection not worth paying for, it's waiting for you at MoneyTalksNews.com. Just do a search for protection. For Money Talks News, I'm Stacey Johnson.
Money Talks is brought to you by your local consumer credit counseling service. If you've got debt problems or just want some free budget counseling, call today.
Thanks for listening to the podcast of 17 News at Sunrise. It's a 15-minute summary of everything you need to know about Kern County. There's a new episode every weekday.